So after a huge thrash last night, we've got the Javelin loaded on the trailer and we're heading north. Our first stop is Nashville at Mule Town Dyno, where we're gonna get this thing dialed in. And of course you gotta do the classic, that ain't going anywhere. So hopefully it'll ride without any issues. And hopefully my dad's new tow rig will treat us well.
I'm the one that cinched it up, so yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I double checked it.
Sorry about the voice there. I think I'm going through puberty or yeah.
Anyway, we gotta hit the road. So next time you see us, we'll be in Nashville, Tennessee. Made it to my buddy Keith's shop with the car on the trailer. Then it took us a half hour to unload the car because it's so low it doesn't come off the trailer. And now we're gonna bleed the brakes, put some water in it, and throw it on his dyno so that we can dial this thing in and see what kind of power it's making. But we picked the worst possible day on planet Earth to do this.
You procrastinate, you only have one choice, right?
That is true. All right, we're gonna come out. So this is my buddy Keith. He has a mobile dyno, and yet we're at his house where his mobile dyno is. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I met him on Power Tour, I guess?
Yeah.
With the EcoBoost? EcoTech.
The Eco-Mino, which is
Eco-Mino
under the tarp over there.
He's got cool stuff. But there's our master cylinder down here. So it does have some brake fluid in it from when Tony put this thing together, but I don't think it has any fluid in that reservoir and has very little fluid in the front. So we're gonna top this off and then use Keith's vacuum bleeder and vacuum bleed this thing, and hopefully we'll have a brake pedal because we ran out of time to bleed the brakes. You know, if it weren't for the last minute, nothing would ever get done. So as usual, we were trying to do things the quick and dirty way without lifting the car up and taking the wheels off. But generally that takes about 30 times as long because it's just frustrating. So now the car's up in the air, you can actually get to it. You can see it actually pulling some fluid. So I don't know if this system has ever been bled, so we're kind of figuring it out as we go. And everything on this car was built by different people over many different decades. And that results in a lot of stuff being weird and different sometimes. So I will say Tony did these modern brakes in the last decade or so, probably. It used to have 4-lug discs on it from the Ford Pinto, so these Willwoods are a big upgrade with the solid steel rotor that you want in drag racing, so they don't like heat soak real quick on you and warp. Anyway, we're gonna keep bleeding brakes. All right, well, we are officially even more hot and sweaty than we were when we started, but the brakes are bled. We have a pedal. I adjusted the rear coilovers up about 1 inch on the actual shock body, so that might equate to a little more than 1 inch of ride height. You can see these were kind of at the bottom. Now they're a little higher. Tightened all the bleeders. We should be good to, in theory, maybe fire this thing up and drive it over to the dyno once we fill it up with water. So we're gonna toss the wheels and tires back on, put this thing on the ground, set the fuel pressure, fill it with water, and then see if it'll fire up and make its first drive under its own power ever as a tube chassis race car. Yeah, it used to be a car when it was built brand new, but it's never been a race car before. Nope. All right, so got the car with water in the block and bled the brakes, adjusted the rear suspension. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Keith for opening up his shop. He actually owns Mule Town Mobile Dyno and brings his dyno, which is in an enclosed trailer, out to car shows for people to actually run their cars right there live at events. And that's like super cool because nobody really does that.
Yeah, it's a great chance for you to bring your friends out and basically live see the difference between you and your friends on the same dyno, right then, same conditions. And you get to do it at a car show. Everybody gets to watch. It's a big event. It's cool.
I actually had the El Camino on that same dyno back in 2019 and made like 180 horsepower. Granted, I had been very mean to the car that week and completely like destroyed the insides of my torque converter doing burnouts on power tour. So,
but it proves that power needs to get to the wheels.
Yep.
Not just from the crank, and not all LS setups make 400 horsepower immediately.
Even though we think they do. Like he has his little Elco over there. It's got an Ecotec 4-cylinder turbo out of a Saab and made way more horsepower at the tire than I did.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you own a dyno, you learn certain things and how to do certain things, and so I knew that that motor can take 400 because I've seen a few examples on my dyno before from a friend's cars, and so I decided to do that for Power Tour to try to make some people mad and show that you could do different things other than LS motors to make 300-400 horsepower.
It was very humbling, and basically all that is to say this guy is way smarter than he lets on, and he knows a thing or two. So we're gonna let him take a look at this thing, and we're gonna experience some AMC V8 horsepower, and hopefully it treats us right. Here we go.
Like 7 psi.
Sorry, what?
I feel like 7 psi fuel pressure.
Let's see how it acts. I had the fuel pump on.
Yeah.
Jonathan, how does that make you feel?
Whew. A lot of work to get to this point, but
Rowdy, huh?
she's pretty spicy. What do you think of that?
Kind of makes you shake a little bit.
I mean, open headers is never a bad feeling. But yeah, this is definitely unique, one of a kind.
I'm excited to see it run. We still got to dial in the carb a little. It's definitely has some issues, but it at least runs.
Yeah, no.
It seems to run
It
pretty
drove.
good.
It drove from
it
there to
stopped.
here. Yeah, the brakes work great.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Like 40 years, and you really just thrashed on it for less than 2 weeks. It took a few days to get all the parts ordered and
Yeah.
everything, but really 2 weeks to completion.
It's kind of a shame when you look at how much work went into the all the cage and the dash, like just all that stuff takes so much time, and then just a couple more weeks is all needed.
Yeah, that's what blew my mind when we found it. Is it was 2 weeks away from being finished,
Yeah.
and it never got done. And now we get to finish it. Look, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Amongst all the grease
And the heat.
Yeah.
You got grease bumps.
Grease bumps. Yeah, that's that thing is rowdy. 12.5 to 1 compression is always gonna sound glorious.
Yeah.
Goal today is to make sure that it runs well and gives them somewhere to start, and then as they continue to progress, we can see how it builds and see what they can do to make it better and better. And so you always got to start somewhere and then work your way up from there.
Back this thing on there, see what happens. Because it's probably at an angle now.
Shouldn't be too much of an angle.
No, just because it didn't have much gas in
Yeah.
there.
So let's fill it up, and then I'm gonna have to actually have you run it and let it center
Yeah,
up.
center, yeah. Oh, I think it ran out of fuel right then.
Yeah.
Because it just died. Alright, we're off. So there we go. It drove itself onto the dyno and promptly ran out of gas, like a true race car. So we'll have to dump some gas in it and then center it up on the dyno because it's a little off right now. Yeah, I'm glad it drove onto the dyno.
Yeah, no issues.
You get some pretty hot cars in here, pretty fast cars. What's your highest horsepower?
1400.
Yeah? And what is its limit? Do you know?
Depends on certain variables, but they claim 2000 plus.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
All right, so we just centered this car up on the dyno, and now we get to make a pull. Well, you know, after we strap it down, of course.
An old school distributor has mechanical weights in it, and you have to adjust the distributor in order to set your timing. And if we were trying to dial in timing to get optimal horsepower on a dyno, every pull we'd have to go out and physically turn the distributor a very small amount in order to make sure that we have 1 degree advance from the last run, and run it again and see if it makes more power. And so you can do it. It's difficult. So having this, you'll be able to go in and just add 1 degree across the board and then make another run. Super fast, very consistent. So we can really dial in the horsepower much easier.
So it should be ready to fire up and verify timing. Where's the R? So we're actually going to be on this side.
Get the other line. Get the other line.
And the distributor does spin currently.
Okay.
And you'll go through right here, essentially, you see the mark. And then on the crank, 38 degrees is marked with there's 3 white lines. So there's a white line, and a white line. I think the middle one is 38. I can't really see it right now. Let me take a picture of it.
Pump the engine?
Huh?
You pump the starter?
I could. That's probably what we should do.
Okay.
That's cool.
Alright. Yeah, so there's a black one that is at 42.
So that's the most he ever ran.
And then the white line is at 38-ish. 37, 38.
See, the white line is the longest out. There's 3 white lines if you lean out, and the one that comes out longer is 38.
Okay.
Which I think is what he ran it at most of the time.
But it is the middle white line. Okay.
So what we're talking about when we're talking about timing is when the spark actually fires in each particular cylinder. So 38 degrees before top dead center is what we're saying. So you actually have to start burning the fuel before the piston's all the way at the top, or you're very lazy and your car's not making much horsepower. So the higher your timing gets, the less safe things are. You can detonate, you know, cause big problems.
Effectively, you have to find the optimal time for that explosion to happen, so that as it's compressed and then it starts pushing back properly. If you do it too early, you're exploding into the piston as the piston's going up, and then you bend the rod.
Yep.
Not good.
So what we're gonna do here is we got everything set up, and basically there's 0 degrees of timing in the MSD box. So we're gonna verify the timing with a timing light and set it at 38 degrees, and then the MSD box will actually pull timing out to make it a safe tune. So we're gonna go for 38 degrees for starters, but we probably only need to rev it to, you know.
Shouldn't have to rev it at all.
Yeah, it should. I guess yeah, it should do it at idle. So
In theory.
yeah, we'll see.
I've never done one like this, but
Where it doesn't have a mechanical or anything. All right, let's see what happens.
I've got 23 minutes on the battery.
I'm just gonna be in neutral for starters.
Yep.
All right, so.
adjusting at all.
It's not changing it. That's so weird.
So I think the computer is controlling it.
Yeah.
I think the computer is controlling it.
Yeah, I would say so.
So right now it is at. Right now it is at like 36-ish, I think. Somewhere safe. It's not. It's definitely, you know, like you said, you thought 35. I think it's 36 or something. So I think we can dial it down with the software, hopefully, but we won't be able to go up, maybe.
Yeah, 36 is safe, so we can
quickly load a software that is flat across with like 4 degrees pulled out, and then I can see if it actually is doing anything.
Yeah. That's fair.
And then we can just use your timing gun without me having to put power. Since
yeah, that's where the battery powered one's nice. Oh goodness. One thing at a time. And that's 6 degrees down from peak timing.
Yeah. If you look at the graph, it's very smooth, pretty
So that was over 400 horsepower at the tire.
At the tire, 420.
With 6 degrees pulled out of the timing. So it's making over 500 at the crank right there.
Oh yeah.
And it's supposed to make 630 at the crank on an engine dyno. So,
yeah.
I mean, I kind of believe it.
Not bad for the
I'm starting to believe that it's actually a good motor.
Not bad for the first pull.
No, not terrible.
Yeah.
Most power I've ever made on a dyno.
40 years, 100 horsepower, or 10 horsepower per year? I don't know.
100? No, yeah. It's not as good as it sounded.
100 horsepower per decade.
Okay, I want you. I'm a little hangry, a little grouchy, but I'm much happier now that the car is working, because we just fought this thing for like 2 hours here in the hot Tennessee humidity, and we were having little issues, and mainly it was just us. We didn't know what we were doing with this particular car. We had a little bit of a learning curve. Once we figured it out, we understand the way the ignition system is working. We actually dialed it in pretty quick, and it made over 400 horsepower on its first lick at a very safe level, and it was nice and smooth and clean and wasn't breaking up or anything.
This engine has a total of 2 minutes of runtime since it was built
since
40
1996.
years ago. Yeah, and just cranked out a solid number.
No smoke, no oil spraying out everywhere. That's a win.
That's a big win. I mean, that's a huge win, that number. But it turned 120 miles an hour.
Okay.
So your drivetrain
Works.
is working.
Didn't blow
Drive
up.
shaft was solid. That's good. All good things.
Appreciate your analytics, man.
Yeah. A better result than I expected.
Based on how the last 3 hours have gone?
No, just, in general, old style engine technology does not put out this kind of numbers unless it's like something serious like this. Your average person that has an old muscle car thinks that it's built to 500 horsepower.
Jump a Coke can, right?
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, like, the old technology just usually doesn't perform. I mean, it's like 300 horsepower is a good number out of an old style engine, unless it's been thoroughly built and gone through and done right. So this is through a big tire. This is a big number already. And like I said, in theory, we have it tuned very safe.
All right, so we made one pull. Once we figured out how the timing was working on this thing, it took us a minute to figure out that for some reason, the timing is just stuck at 36 degrees. No matter where you point the distributor, it's just there. And I've never had a car where if you move the distributor, the timing doesn't change until it jumps a whole 40 degrees to the next lug, which is a whole different thing that I'm used to. 40 degrees? 45 degrees.
360 divided by 8.
Whatever that is. Math. I'm too tired for math.
For something that's sat for 40 years and it has 2 minutes of runtime, it's like the most successful thing that's ever happened on a dyno.
And we didn't even tweak the carburetor yet.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything.
And the timing is low, and yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully right now, once we start bumping up timing and keeping an eye on air fuel, we're going to see some impressive gains.
Yeah.
I would hope to see, at least like a 20-30 horsepower gain to the wheel.
On just 2 degrees right now, or total?
No, maybe a few changes.
Okay.
If things go really well, maybe we get close to 500, but we might be pushing it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
600 through a normal turbo 400, in a normal tire is going to set you back 120 off of 600, so you're only at 480.
Yeah.
So, ideally we, based on what you're saying the engine should do, ideally we want to see around 500 to the wheel, but keeping in mind this is a big tire car, probably a little less than 500.
That's fair. We're about to find out though, so here we go. Time for another hit. See how this thing does. That's pretty good. 10 horsepower per degree of timing. I didn't lean into it as hard as I did on the first one. I don't know why. I just didn't put my foot on
you
the
can see it on the
ground.
graph.
Yeah. That was me hesitating.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good result though. It actually was picking up power a little bit towards the end.
Oh yeah, it did start to climb.
So maybe we will want to see what it can do a little bit higher. But
That's pretty wild.
yeah. But for now, I think we just keep it safe.
Yeah.
And add a few more degrees.
So what are you currently running at on this latest pull? What degree?
Should be 32 in theory-ish.
Okay. Wow.
The beauty of the dyno is we don't care what that number is, because what we're gonna do is inch our way up
making power.
until it stops making power, and then we can back it down to the safe number, and that's it. Doesn't matter what that number is.
That picked up 14.
14, yeah. So slightly diminished return, but still pretty solid. Looking pretty good.
Just keeps getting better, huh?
That's what it should do.
Yeah.
Things that we're doing are doing what they're supposed to, which is amazing. Because there's always usually like this.
All right, so we just made our third proper pull, not just figuring out the car and making sure it worked. And we picked up another 14 horsepower, 13 horsepower. So we're at 454 horsepower, 548 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, that's it's pretty respectable. I mean, everything's doing what it should.
Yeah, I mean...
And look at these graphs.
As we talked about, you know, an ideal horsepower based on what you thought the engine should make, you know, maybe in the 480-ish range would be like super ideal, but you know, we're kind of guesstimating on a big tire how much we would lose, and I'm sure it's not going to power. So to be already at 455 is very, very...
I mean, that's 600-ish crank probably.
Yeah.
Around.
I would say, yeah, for sure.
So, and that's
And
2 degrees off peak timing. So.
Yeah, we're gonna, I mean, it's still, our returns on the first 2 degree hit were 20 horsepower. On the second degree, second addition of 2 degrees was 14. So that means that we should still pick up power when we add 2 more degrees here. Usually you get diminishing returns, and then at some point you get a 0 return, and then you back it down, and that's your optimal, ideal horsepower timing. So to make 14 horsepower on 2 degrees is still means that we still should have room.
Yeah, we're about to find out.
And at 454 at the wheel, what does that mean at the engine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a guesstimate based on, you know, how much a big tire like this is going to suck up in terms of power. But
Then your diff eating a little bit of power, and then your transmission eating power.
So like we said, a 600 horsepower car through 20% loss is going to be right at 480 at the wheel. That's only 20%.
So
20% is like a lock-up automatic transmission is, you know, typical. So this is more than 20%. This is at least 25% with this tire and setup.
So safe to say this engine is approaching 600 horsepower.
Yeah. I think it is.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome. Thank you, Tony. You bought a good engine.
And more importantly, it makes this power. I mean, right now.
Yeah, look at the area under the curve.
Right now, even at 3,000 RPM, you're making 300 horsepower, and then by the time you're at 4,000 RPM, you are making...
And look, it's dead on 300, 400.
Yeah.
Like, at the... That's weird.
Yeah, and then you're making an average power above 400 all the way through that span.
Yeah, from, what, 4,000 RPM all the way to 6,500
So, I don't
is
know.
over 400 horsepower.
I don't know the shift points in the car, but I imagine once your first gear is out here, you're going to shift, and you're going to be in that 400 horsepower range all the
The
way down
entire
track.
run, yeah.
So it should be a fast
Pretty
car.
awesome.
It should be a fast car.
As long as it goes straight. This is not telling us anything about the chassis setup and the suspension, except for it doesn't come apart at 120 something miles an hour.
With a light load.
Yeah.
The loading will be different on the track, so there are some additional variables. But you know, this is 40 years of not anything, and then to do this is amazing. So.
No complaints here. All right, time for another run.
You see that?
Yeah. That's oil change sticker still.
Yeah.
And like the VIN, the plate, like look, that's Amoco.
Yeah.
Manufactured by American Motors. That's the original color of the car.
Yeah.
And we got some passenger seat belts that expired in 1995, I think.
86.
86, yeah.
Made more power. That thing just picked up another 14 horsepower with 2 degrees of timing. Unfortunately, that's all the timing we have. So we can't change it unless we actually mechanically change the timing.
You did rev it out a little longer.
I did, yeah.
And it liked it.
Yeah. Oh, look, it still stays perfectly flat up there. Yeah. That is freaking awesome. So there we go. 468 at 544 foot-pounds of torque. Lost a tiny bit of torque down low, but I'm sure that's very dependent on how I tip into the throttle and everything. Because you see this one where I kind of got out of the throttle, it went to 468 pound-feet of torque. Because you make your peak torque here compared to way up here like your power. So yeah, we have a 470 horsepower car making 550 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, at the wheel. So that is definitely 600 plus at the crank.
Yes.
And like 700 foot-pounds of torque. Do you lose torque?
Yeah, so you might get, you might be getting some torque converter help.
You think the torque converter is actually helping you, so you're making less at the crank. I don't know, it's witchcraft to me. Torque converter magic happens in there and power goes to the back of your car through the transmission somehow.
Yeah.
It's converting torque.
It's literally 2 fans blowing fluid at each other essentially, and the way they interact with each other, it locks almost. It's
a viscous.
It's really weird.
It's a technical term.
Whoever figured that one out is a freaking genius. That blows my mind.
The same way rear differentials, positive traction.
How does it work? It just does.
But yeah. But anyways, though, yeah, I mean, like I said, in an ideal world, if you wanted 600 horsepower, you want to make 480 at the wheel, and you just about made it. So
through that big tire too.
Yeah, exactly. So
that is absolutely wild. Well, I want to give a huge shout out to Keith here from Mule Town Dyno. He helped us a ton with this car. We would have been going into the drag strip totally blind, not having any idea how this car ran.
I mean, surprisingly, you probably would have been fine.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
literally, we didn't change anything.
Yeah, I mean, we eased our way up there, but we definitely didn't need to do anything.
And it could take more timing. It's still building power, but I'm not going to go in there and change anything because I'm very happy with where it's at, and I know that it's safe. Because 36 degrees of timing is not a big deal. A lot of guys run 38 and even 40 in these AMC motors, so.
Especially if you're running that super high octane and everything, you're definitely safe.
And it smells good. Yeah, smell and looking at the way it's making power, it's not stumbling at all. Like
very smooth.
I don't see a problem with it whatsoever. But man, that is absolutely amazing. And this is going to be a whole separate video here on YouTube, so I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to go see more cool stuff where this guy takes this dyno to shows and stuff, he's Mule Town Dyno on Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook.
Okay, Instagram and Facebook. And if you ever see him at a show, you can give him money and he'll strap your car down and let you make pulls and see what power it makes. So,
it's only $80.
That's really quite affordable. Compared to a lot of dynos out there?
Very, very affordable.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me it's very affordable. But my purpose is to let everybody have access to the dyno, not just rich guys, young guy with a Civic, 18-year-old kid with a Civic can get on and afford that if they really want to.
What's the lowest power that's ever been made on the dyno?
I mean, if you want to discount weird stuff like the picnic table and whatever,
not a Briggs & Stratton.
Like a full car that can drive on the road legally, safely, and everything. I think it was maybe an Austin Mini, an original true Austin Mini.
20-something horsepower.
Yeah, it was I want to say it was between 25 and 28 horsepower or something like that.
Crazy.
Does it give
And then what-
decimal points?
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What's the most you've had on you?
So the most was like a Coyote 5.0 with a big Whipple supercharger, made like close to 1400-ish. And I've had a few, you know, Dodge, you know, Hellcat motors or whatever with big Whipples that make above 1,000 pretty easily.
So
Basically, if you want to make big power, you buy a big Whipple supercharger.
Good to know.
It's what I found out.
makes me want to Whipple. But again, huge thank you to Keith, and I hope you guys enjoyed following along, because this was my first like real dyno experience with a race car, especially. But the first time I was ever on a dyno was your dyno with the Elko.
Yeah.
So, and that was terrible because the car was basically broken.
And we were kind of in a hurry, you know, power tour and everything. This is like a true chance, you know, dyno session kind of, where you get to really feel your car out there.
It was absolutely amazing. So anyway, you should dyno your car if you want to know what it really makes, because then you aren't just bench racing. You actually know.
And if you find me at an event, now you have a direct comparison to this vehicle as to how your car does.
Yeah. And then we'd have to line them up and see how they do together on a drag strip, because that's a whole different ball game.
Right.
So, you can make power on here, but you got to be able to go down a drag strip with it. Anyway, all right, that's gonna wrap it up. So a huge thank you to you guys for watching. I always appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in. And to see a 40-year-old race car get on the dyno and have virtually zero issues and just work is absolutely incredible to me. That motor hasn't run since 1996, and it just made 470 horsepower to the wheel. So that is absolutely amazing. So again, thanks to each and every one of you for watching. Please remember to hit that subscribe button if you want to follow along for more cool stuff like this, especially with our Javelin project. This thing is freaking rad. And drop a like. Let me know in the comments what you liked and what you didn't like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. We got to go racing.